Hi VIPs, welcome to this week's VIP show. This week's show looks a little different from the past episodes because, well, I'm in a different spot. And also because Raymond's not here right now. He's actually out of town for his day job. I think he said he's in Texas, I think. Anyway, I did, however, get a hold of him to talk through some of the editing that I did for the Fairy Tale Forest shoot from last weekend. You guys actually already saw much of that shoot via my iPhone, which was stuck onto the top of Raymond's D600 with a hot shoe adapter. But now let's go to Raymond and I actually looking at the edits that I did and also actually doing some of the editing together. Let's take a look at how I edited these in Aperture. I will go through some of those edits and then I will actually edit a couple of photos with you. And then Raymond is also editing a few photos and we will cut to him after I'm all done. Okay, let's get started. I have some of the other photos from the day in here as well, but let's start with this photo. This was the original photo, and I edited it to look like this. I have two copies because I used skin smoothing in the Nik filter set, the Nik Color Effects Pro 4, and it creates an additional TIFF file. So that's what this one looks like. I did the skin softening and then I added an effect over here. I used the sepia low contrast effect, mostly because there's a water tower back here and it kind of blends into the background when this is a black and white or monochrome image, not so much when it is a color image. So there's going to be plenty of color, riotous color if you will, but that I wanted it to blend into the background. You can tell here that it doesn't blend so well because I did use a colored filter here. But since it's kind of a, I don't know, I want to say milky or hazy kind of a filter, it still kind of blends into the background. Again, I use skin smoothing, so I've got the original image and the new image. This one, black and white, I didn't do any skin smoothing on this one. In this one I used a filter from Preset Pond, and it is the high key filter. It's just a super high key filter. The only thing is that, I don't know, you guys can see, can I make it so, oh, I know how I can make you see it. It's got this in it. It has this little burn in it, and you can see over here it gets dark. So whenever I use this filter, I always have to uncheck that. With this one, I didn't actually do any additional editing. Sometimes I'll start with a filter, like with this one I believe I did it. I'll start with a filter. In this case it was, I believe it was this one, Salmon Soft Washed Out version 1. But then I went in and I did some other, monkeying with some of these settings. Something I should mention in these photos, in this one, and also in this one, I was somewhat backlit actually, and I chose so as a result my face was kind of dark, and you can tell a little bit in these. You can see that these two are in sequence, but then you skip a few to this one because some of these photos they didn't quite work out. I probably could have worked on them, but my face was a little bit too dark for my liking in them. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time doing post-processing. I had plenty of photos that I could work with, so I simply deleted them from the bunch. The ones that I did choose, I still had some light on my face, in some way. I as a model, I'm always trying to catch the light, but in these I was able to catch a little bit of light on my face, and then I specifically chose filters where it actually brought my face up a little bit. Although in this one, I looked like I had a black eye and I had to actually, I did actually lighten my eye a little bit in this one. Moving along, I do have this photo and this photo, but these are, you can see I marked them in blue here. These are ones that Raymond thumbnailed he wanted to edit these, so I will be skipping these two. And let's move past some of these flower ones. And I can edit. These are unedited so far. Even though you guys have seen this one on Facebook, I have not edited it. But let's move past some of these. to something different. Oh, look, a caterpillar. There was a caterpillar. There were all kinds of caterpillars when I was walking through. I don't know if you guys could have heard that in the iPhone video, but there were so many caterpillars on all of these flowers that I was trying to be so careful. You can actually see there's one here. You can see there's another one back here. I was trying to be so careful going through these flowers and grasses that I didn't disturb any of them. Oh, there's my off the cuff. I am hitchhiking and showing a little leg, which really kind of provided way more discussion on Facebook than I had intended. It was just supposed to be a funny little thing, and everybody takes me so seriously sometimes. Everyone should know not to take me seriously ever. Almost ever. So here's one with me in a big tree. I've got this giant tree. I mean, it's just gargantuan. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this photo. I'm not sure if I like it, but I'm hoping I can kind of crop and do something strange and moody with it. Oh, look, there's another one that Raymond decided he was going to steal from me. And, oh, let's just do this one. This one, you can see I kind of have some, I was furrowing my brow a little bit. Let's just go ahead and do a little bit of this skin smoothing. I like this particular set of filters because one, it has this super easy skin smoothing filter, but also they're just really easy to use and really, really malleable. I can really use, I can really change it. Like if I don't want to do a lot of skin smoothing, I can actually lower the settings so that they're not quite so drastic. And I feel like that looks a little bit better, but it still looks pretty natural, which is a goal for me. I always want my photos to look natural. So I can toggle back and forth between the initial one and just slightly smoothed. And what should we do with this one? Let's go over here. I'm thinking maybe I kind of like that because it does bring some additional bluish tones into the scene, and I was hoping that some of these would be a little bit cooler. And I like a lot of these filters, but with this shoot, I was really hoping to get a dreamy kind of a look and a surreal kind of a look. So let's see what I can come up with here. Let's start here. Let's just increase the vibrancy a touch. Okay, I think I'm just going to be done with this one. This one will be slightly more natural looking than some of the other ones, but I like to have a bit of a variety. Let's move on and maybe do one more together. Let's see here. Maybe one of these ones with the rocks. Or I want to do something funky with this one. This really wasn't a photo that was being taken like for the shoot, but I ended up just thinking it was kind of an interesting photo. I like how, I'm kind of mid-run over to these trees that I was going to go over and stand in front of for some photos, which didn't turn out, and I ended up, just getting rid of all of them. But I feel like something, maybe in the black and white family, maybe even a little bit noir looking with all this interesting background, or maybe like an infrared look. So let's go into Silver Effects Pro, which is a Nik filter set, and see what I can get going here. Yikes. That's a lot of structure. Maybe not. Maybe one of my favorites is this one. Well, actually, I kind of like that one. I feel like I'm almost a little bit out of my element here because I don't do very many stylized photos. I don't like to use a lot of, a lot of time in post-processing, but I got the bug and I wanted to do it for these. All right, let's go ahead and see what Raymond came up with.
Okay, what I'm going to do, this is Raymond, what I'm going to do is review with you the 5 photos that I selected to edit from the photo shoot this weekend. These were with my D600. Now I also shot some photos with Leigh's N65 on film, 800 speed film, which we don't have back yet. So we'll talk about those next week or whenever we get them back. I think they're still in the camera, maybe in 2 weeks. Let's see. Let's go to this first one here. Let's see the best way to do this. Maybe we'll do it this way. Maybe I'll open some of these up too. What I'm going to do first is kind of go through the selection and an overview of how I edited them. But then I'm going to go into Aperture and we're going to look at the individual settings that were used on each of the pictures. I know people are always interested in settings, so we will talk about that. So this image here, 3458. Let's open that a little bigger here. It's good. It's kind of sneaking around that tree there. We didn't use any flash whatsoever, so the lack of fill light is just the way that things looked. We're close to the ground. So what I decided to do then with the edit is we brightened it up. And I'll show you exactly how I did that in Aperture. I believe I used a single filter here. I'll show you exactly which one that is. It kind of blew up the background a little bit here. Let's compare over to the... see if I can be clever here. There we go. You can see the background is a little bit, obviously, or maybe a lot brighter and more yellow in the new one on the left-hand side here, but we didn't lose any particular detail. It's kind of dreamy, fairy tale type look. So I wasn't disappointed with what it did to the background, and I was really happy that I was able to bring up the details on Leigh a little bit. So there's that first one. And again, we'll look at this again in a few moments in Aperture as well. Next, 3399. This is the original. This is in front of some lava rock. Let's go ahead and open that one. And then here is the edit. Again, this was a single filter. We'll figure out which one that was in Aperture. I think it may have been Toy Camera, just one of the out-of-the-box filters in Aperture, and it's actually usually one of my starting points. I really like what it did. This was one of those happy little accidents, I think. Is one, it added a lot of contrast and color to Leigh and her outfit, but look what it did with the background. It made it really deep, but it kept some of the colors that were reflecting off of the volcanic rock as well, while making the major portions of the rock, the darker portions, it crushed those almost to completely black. So to me, this kind of jumps out. It highlights what's behind her, even though it kind of dims it a little bit as well. Let's close those. Let's go next here. This is kind of just a classic portrait here. She's sitting on the ground. Has kind of I think she's kind of staring into our souls here on this picture. It's not a smile. It's not a frown. It's a look of study or reflection or intensity. I'm not sure. So what I did is, again, we'll figure out which filter this was. I just kind of brought it all up. There's more contrast, there's more color, but I didn't go in on any of these and do any selective editing, no dodging or burning or anything like that. These were all in good natural light. The tones were very even. Why mess with that? The timing, lighting, and location were all very good. If I don't have to be an image mechanic because I've set up the scene properly and we've gotten out there at the right time, good. Then I don't have to be an image mechanic and spend a lot of my time doing things, trying to make something out of a picture that maybe I wanted to make in the first place with the environment and nature. This is kind of a vintage filter here on this one. Again, I did not do much. These are actually pretty similar other than maybe a kind of a vintage color shift. It did bring up the shadows a little bit. This may have been the honey vintage filter. We'll figure that out. But, overall, the image, the location, that's what made the picture, not anything I did in aperture. And then for this last one, I actually edited it in two different ways, two very different looks. Here's the original on 3287 here. She's kind of looking up at the sky, and all these flowers are around here. So for the first one, I kind of went with the light theme. And again, went from one of those vintage type filters and made it look kind of dreamy, kind of washed out. Everything's very yellow like the flowers. And then this next one, I kind of went in the other direction. Higher contrast. This made the skin tones harsher. I thought about maybe desaturating these skin tones a little bit, but the flowers were intense, so I left her as intense as well. Things are a little washed out in the background here, just on the way the lighting was. Someone who really wanted to get into it might do some kind of split gradient on this or something like that. I'm fine with it. The sky was bright. That's what it looked like. And we cranked these flowers down here. So let's go over into aperture, where I've got all these laid out here. Let's start up here with this one where she's peeking behind the tree. I'll pull up the info screen here. And let's see. We were ISO 400 on the D600. This is at the 50 millimeter 1.8G lens. F3.2, I kind of waffled between F2.8 and F4 during these different pictures, depending on how much we wanted in focus. Her hand actually came out pretty well in focus here. If I thought about it, I probably would have set F4, but it came out fine. It's kind of a softer look, although her hand really isn't that much softer than the rest of her. Anyway, let's talk about... See, I think I have the original here as well. And what I do, I might not do this for all the pictures here, but what I do is pretty crude. I've made myself a little aperture plugin folder here called Preset Pond. These are available for Lightroom as well. Not necessarily all of them on Preset Pond are available as aperture in Lightroom, but normally you can find the same look. And what I do is I keep this collection of about 18 different filters that I like as starting points for working with images. If I want something a little edgier, I've got my cross-processing here, and then I might go in and tweak from there. Honeyed Vintage I used on a couple of these. I think I used that on this one because it kind of brightened everything up, gave it more of a dreamy tone, and most importantly, it kind of brought those shadows up down here. Again, without me having to go in and do all this selective editing. I've picked these filters as kind of my favorite collection here for a reason, because they do things out of the box. They're preset to do many of the things that I already would have done with the shadows. So, one of my other favorites here, which we'll look at in a minute here, is Toy Camera as well. We'll see what Toy Camera does to this one. I added a vignette. Oh wait, you know what? I did it on top of the other one. Let's go back to the original image. So if I had taken this original image and gone to Toy Camera, just made it darker because it intensified the contrast, intensified the colors. So for this image, I wouldn't use Toy Camera as a starting point. Okay, so let's close this one. And let's go over to... Okay, so I've gone in, now I've created a version of the original here so I can compare them. Oh, here we go. So this was the original and then this was my edit. Maybe I should have done it this way originally. So let's see here. What did I use? I never really remember what I used because I kind of go in and I do this impulsively. And aperture feeds that addiction because you can go down here and I can see as I hover over the different filters what the effect I'm going to get is. So this was definitely toy camera. There we go. So now if I flip over the other one, they look the same. And that's what the original looked like. So you can see why I like toy camera is it brings me the contrast and the color right away, and then I can go in and I can tweak it to my heart's content. With these images, I think because the original lighting was so good and we were up at that golden hour, I did not tweak any of the individual sliders for these. I got a lot of these first shot with the look that I was looking for with my favorite collection of filters. You could say, oh, okay, Raymond, well, you're just running a filter. Yes, these are filters that I've selected over time to be the ones that I want to use with my images. All right, let's go to another image here. Okay, so let's take this one. Okay, I do have the original sitting next to it here. So here's the original. And then here is the enhanced version. Let's figure out what I did. Shouldn't take too long. Honey Vintage would have been nice. It's not what I used. Maybe Bleached Nostalgia. That looks close. No, a little bit different. Similar look though. Higher contrast, a little better color. That would have been a good candidate. I'm not sure that I'll be able to figure out exactly which one that I used here. Let's try one more. Definitely not more vintage. Not cross-process, so that would be cool too. I'd want to do the whole shoot this way. I don't want to come across a single picture that has a color palette that shifted that much. But you can see here, it's kind of fun to see all the different things you can do here. Cold cream, no, it wasn't cold cream. That's more of a cross-process look. So, okay, well, I don't know which one I used for that one, but you can tell, you can see how I did that selection process. Maybe I went with toy camera. No, not toy camera. All right, we'll go to the next one. Let's talk about settings too for this one. ISO 800. It wasn't as bright as it looks, so we went to a higher ISO. This was the 85mm again, f3.2. It was getting a little brighter. I think it was 1/320th before. I'm at 1/500th now. Let's look at the settings on this one too that we didn't talk about. ISO 800, 85, f2.8 on this one. She was closer to the rock, so I felt comfortable doing that. And 1/800th there because I went to the wider aperture. We weren't on the shoot focused on settings in any way. We set some baseline settings. We left ISO 800, I think, for the most part, and we went with it. No reason to be fooling around with a camera when we have this good lighting and a great model. Let's see. So let's create a duplicate here, and let's revert to the original. Okay. So here we've got this one here with Leigh out in the flowers looking down. And then I'll bet this is one of those vintage type filters. So we have realistic color here. That's good. It's getting a little brighter at this point. But now we've made it into something, a little more old-timey. So let's look at the settings first. Again, ISO 800, 85mm, f4, maybe to get, I don't know, those flowers in focus a little more. I don't know. Not too much difference over the f3.2 that I had before. 1/160th, so 85mm, 1/160th. I don't know. We all took a deep breath and held still, but I think it worked out pretty well. It's plenty sharp. Let's talk about filters. Let's go to the original. I should take notes when I filter them because then I would know exactly where to go. But again, here's what I did. I went over to my preset pond collection. More vintage, that's kind of bright. There's this honeyed vintage. Yeah, that's definitely brighter yellow than I did. And I'll do this. I'll apply these different filters. I'll go back. I'll say, no, a little too much. A little too little. That black and white looked nice. Oh, vintage mid-tone. It's all coming back now. This is one that I haven't used that much. I think I'm going to use it more. Yep, got it, because they're the same. So vintage mid-tone over at Preset Pond. That worked out really well for this picture. I think this, to me, is very much how I expect the ISO 800 film pictures to come out. Not the dynamic range, not the contrast, but very, very pleasing. Definitely a very good film look here as well. I'm expecting a little more noise on the, a little more grain on the ISO 800 film versus 800. One of the reasons, honestly, why I stuck with ISO 800 even as it was getting brighter is I was shooting 800 speed film, and as I moved back and forth between the D600 and the N65, I knew my settings were dead on between one camera and the other. Okay, this is the one that I edited in 2 different ways. First, we will duplicate the version. And then, let's see, let's revert the duplicate to the original. Let's pull up that original. The original is very good, lots of colors. This is just natural things here. There's a water tower in the background. I think I smudged that out for the edits. Let's go ahead and see. Yeah. So for this edit, I really made it pop. Let's look at the settings real quick. ISO 800, there's the 85mm again. F4, 1/250th. So it was a little brighter out here. Let's look at the filter. Now the original looks so flat. If you look at, it's funny how that works. You look at this one, you stare at it, and then you go over to this one, and it's like, whoa, who put a veil over it? What's going on? Let us go for the effects here. Preset pond again. Nuclear winter, I think, is where I went. Yep. So that's nuclear winter. And then I think for my alternate edit, I think I went for the honeyed vintage. Now this honeyed vintage, this is how I like it the best. This is what I would deliver to the client or give to Leigh for her portfolio. But I know that this kind of nuclear winter look with all those flowers, this is a very popular look. It's almost an HDR type look. So when I edited it this way, I said, I might be the only one who's going to like it that way, so let me do something that Leigh or someone else might like a little bit better, and that's where I went for that just nuclear color type look. So that's it. That's my 5 images that I picked, my slightly scatterbrained approach to explaining and working with them, and that's how I ended up with what I ended up with. You'll be able to see these photos in the gallery.
That's all for this week's show, VIPs. You'll be seeing the video that goes along with this shoot for everyone later today. In the meantime, let me know what you thought of the behind-the-scenes footage. I definitely need to figure out better audio and maybe include you guys a little more in the planning process. But let me know what you think, because I think I would like to start doing that more often, both when I shoot with Raymond and when I shoot by myself, so that you can really see the process in a more organic way. And I am actually scheduling a model to come into the studio in the next couple weeks too, so maybe I'll be able to do it during that shoot. Okay guys, talk to you later.